Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today doing a Gaia the Fierce Knight deck profile. So I'm really excited for you guys because this deck is an amazing OTK deck that can summon out all sorts of nostalgic monsters to the field, and I even have some spicy techs in here for you guys. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description for every single video, getting a signed cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to our patron, along with test stands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, I'm playing 3 copies of Gaia the Magical Knight. This card is a great 3-up for the deck that has the ability that this card is always treated as Gaia the Fierce Knight. And if you control no monsters or your opponent controls a monster with 2300 or more attack, then you can normal summon this card without treating. And if this card is normal or special summon, then you can special summon a level 5 dragon monster from your hand or graveyard in defense position, which is a really awesome effect because the card that we're usually going to be summoning off that effect is Curse of Dragon, the Cursed Dragon, which is a really powerful card for the deck that has the ability, if this card is normal or special summon, then you can add a spell or trap from your deck to your hand that specifically lists the card Gaia the Dragon Champion in its text. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, then you can target a Gaia the Dragon Champion that you control, negate the effects of face-up monsters that your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to it until the end phase of the turn. And you can only use each effect of this card once per turn. That is an awesome effect because usually when you summon out your copy of Gaia the Dragon Champion to your side of the field, either of the forms, it's usually going to come out at 52, which is absolutely insane that you get to negate all of your opponent's monster effects that are lower than 52. We then play 3 copies of Curse of Dragonfire. This card is basically a walking polymerization, so it's a definite 3-of in the deck that you can once per turn fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters you control as fusion materials, including this card, which is a really good effect. We then play 3 copies of Artillery Catapult Turtle. Artillery Catapult Turtle is a great 3-up and a great normal summon in the deck because it has the ability to tribute a monster to special summon out a Gaia the Fierce Knight monster or a level 5 dragon monster from your hand or deck. And you can only use the effects of this card once per turn. So this card gets you to pretty much any of your combo pieces, which is a great card for the deck. We then play my personal spicy tech of the deck, and that's going to be 3 copies of Blackluster Soldier Envoy of the Beginning, which is super interesting because your Gaia the Magical Knight is actually a light monster and Curse of Dragon is actually a dark monster, so you can summon out Envoy of the Beginning super easy in the deck to be able to help you clean up games. Because all it takes to summon this card is banishing a light and a dark monster, and this card has 2 effects that you can activate once per turn, but you can only activate either or of the effects. That you can target one monster on the field and banish that target face up, but this card can't attack the turn you activate that effect, or during the damage step, if this attacking card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, this card can make a second attack in a row, which is a great effect just to help you go in for game. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn is really good in the deck to be able to get the exact monster you want back on your side of the field. 1 copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is a really good one just to stop your opponent from hand trapping you while you're trying to go in for your Gaia fusion monsters. We then play a single copy of Terraforming because Terraforming is just such a good card in this deck to be able to grab any of the field spells that we need because this deck is very field spell heavy. We then play a single copy of Instant Fusion so we can summon out Millenniumites Restrict or Thousand Eyes Restrict to give us a little bit of protection or to be able to gobble up an opponent's monster so we can go in for game. We then play a single copy of Set Rotation. Set Rotation is really good because it sets a field spell to our field and a field spell to our opponent's field, which is really good so we can get the exact ones that we need on our side of the field so we can go in for game. We then play a single copy of Dragon's Mirror. Dragon's Mirror is really good to help us go in for additional copies of our Dragon Champions, but just banishing the materials from the graveyard. We then play 2 copies of Spiral Spear Strike. This card is absolutely insane in the deck and has the ability that when a Gaia the Fierce Knight, Swift Gaia the Fierce Knight, or Gaia the Dragon Champion on your side of the field attacks a defense position monster, it does piercing damage, which is really good. And if a Gaia the Dragon Champion inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you get to draw 2 cards and then discard a card, which is really good because this effect actually stacks. So if you have 2 of them on your side of the field, you get to draw 4 cards and then discard 2, which is really awesome. We then play play 2 copies of Ultra Polymerization. Ultra Polymerization is really good because you're usually going to have your fusion materials on your side of the field. So you pay 2,000 life points to fusion summon a fusion monster from your X deck using 2 monsters that you control as fusion material, and neither player can activate cards in response to this card's activation. And you can banish this card from your graveyard and then target 1 fusion monster that was fusion summoned with this card that's still in the field, and then you special summon the materials back from the graveyard to your field, but negate their effects, and their attack and defense drops to 0, which is totally fine to be able to just put your materials back on the field so you can go in for additional fusion plays. We then play 3 copies of Spiral Fusion. Spiral Fusion is an insanely powerful card in the deck that lets us fusion summon a dragon fusion monster from our X deck using monsters from our hand or field as fusion material. And if you special summon a Gaia the Dragon Champion by the effect, it gains 2,600 attack, and it can make 2 attacks on monsters during each battle phase, which is why I said with Curse of Dragon, the Cursed Dragon, that you're going to bring it out at 5,200 with this particular card, which is just absolutely insane. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance just to be able to draw more cards in the deck. We don't need every single card in the X deck, so being able to banish 6 to draw 2 is really good. We then play for the field spells, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Gateway to Chaos. Gateway to Chaos is a really good card because when it's activated, you can add a Gaia the Fierce Knight monster from your deck to your hand, which is really big in this deck to be able to add your Magical Knight from deck to hand. We then play 3 copies of Galloping Gaia. Galloping Gaia is such a good card because it has the ability that you can reveal a Gaia the Fierce Knight to add a level 5 dragon monster from your deck to your hand, or reveal a level 5 dragon monster to add Gaia from your deck to your hand, which is really good because basically you just reveal the one that you have to get the one that you don't, so you can go in for your plays and summon out the cards that you want from the X deck, which is really, really nice. We then play 3 copies of Book of Eclipse. Shout out to Tyler. Tyler actually suggested this one to me a while ago, one of my patrons. And this card is absolutely insane in this deck to help you OTK your opponent, because this card has the ability to change all face-up monsters on the field to face-down defense position. And then during the end phase of this turn, you change as many face-down defense position monsters your opponent controls as possible to face-up defense. And then your opponent draws cards equal to the number of monsters that were flipped face-up, which is a really good effect because we're just going to basically put all of our opponent's monsters face down and then attack with our Gaia to be able to go in for game, or even Blackluster Soldier Envoy at the beginning, which is really good to be able to flip those monsters face down so you can go in for game. The only downside of this card is if you're going up against Lynx, this card does not flip those cards face down, but it can be a little bit of a disruption if you get pushed to go first in this deck, because you can flip your opponent's cards face down so they can't Link summon. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. We're not playing any traps this time. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 3 copies of the new Curse of Dragon, the Magical Knight Dragon. This card is a really interesting card, and I really like it in the deck as a 3-of because it has the ability to take a warrior monster and any level 5 dragon monster to summon this card. And if you fusion summon a level 7 dragon fusion monster, you can also banish monsters from your graveyard as a material. And if this fusion summon, or this card's fusion summon, then you can target a spell or trap card in the graveyard that mentions Gaia the Dragon Champion and add that target to your hand. And you can only use the effect of this card once per turn. This card is a really good 3-of, and I'm glad that they finally gave it to us in the TCG because it does help out a lot with this deck. We then play 3 copies of our boss monster, Gaia the Magical Knight of Dragons. This card is absolutely insane. It's just such a powerful boss monster for the deck because it takes a Gaia the Fierce Knight monster plus a level 5 dragon monster to summon this card. But it has the ability, this card's name becomes Gaia the Dragon Champion while on the field, and you can only use each of the following effects of this card once per turn. During the main phase, quick effect, you can target one other card on the field, and this card loses exactly 2,600 attack, and if it does, destroy that card. And when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can make this card gain 2,600 attack points, which is really, really good, because this card can get absolutely massive, especially with Spiral Fusion, letting it attack twice to be able to gain 5,200, going all the way up to like 10,400 if it destroys 2 monsters, with Spiral Fusion summoning it, which is super cool. We then play 3 copies of Sky Galloping Gaia the Dragon Champion. This card is a really interesting boss monster for the deck as well, because it has the ability, just takes a Gaia the Fierce Knight monster plus any dragon monster summon this card, and this card's name becomes Gaia the Dragon Champion while in the field as well, just like your copy of Gaia the Magical Knight. It also has the ability that if this card is special summon, then you can add a Spiral Spear Strike from your deck or graveyard to your hand. And when this card declares an attack on an opponent's monster, you can change the battle positions of your opponent's monsters, which is really good that basically you can just switch them to defense position so you can do piercing damage, which is really cool for this deck. We then play 2 copies of Millennium Eyes Restrict. Millennium Eyes Restrict is like additional copies of Called by the Grave just to stop your opponent from hand trapping you while you're trying to go in for your plays and OTK. We then play a single copy of Thousand Eyes Restrict. This card is really good to get problem monsters off the field so you can gobble them up with this card. It's a really handy card, but since you only play 1 copy of Instant Fusion in the deck, I'm only playing a single copy of this card because if I do banish it off of Extravagance, it's totally fine. We then play 2 copies of Link Karibo. Link Karibo is really good as a combo piece for the deck to be able to link away your copies of Millennium Eyes or Thousand Eyes so you don't get your monsters destroyed by battle, which is really, really good. We then play for the final card of the extra. I'm playing a single copy of Red Eyes Flare Metal. Flare Metal is just so good in the deck to be able to make with 2 copies of your Galloping Gaia or your copy of the Magical Gaia, which is really good in the deck to be able to basically close out games because you can make this card if you don't OTK the opponent, and then they're going to take 500 points every single time they breathe, which is really, really awesome because if they activate any cards effects, then they're going to take 500 points of damage, which is really, really good. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to be able to play with. If you guys have never played with Gaia, you definitely should because this deck is super fun to be able to play, and it's actually fairly budget to be able to pick up the deck. Which is really, really nice, especially since the majority of the stuff in the main deck has been printed as commons, which is just really awesome. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.